started. All right, folks. Well, thank you for being here today. This is a different start to our Right to Publish webinar and workshop. We have Helen Bear, who is our digital repositories librarian at our Morgan Library here at CSU. And I asked her kind of on the spur of the moment because I was thinking about, we've had Kalita come in and she talked about copyright and open access and some other things. But I was reading a little bit more about Open Scholar, or excuse me, about open access and about Mountain Scholar. And it came to my attention that Helen might have a lot more to share with us on some of the options for when you're publishing. We talk about Mountain Scholar a lot with CSU rates, and if you're going to be submitting your digital thesis or dissertation, and I'm sure you can answer questions about that too. But here for this particular course, we're talking about publication, and so I had never reached out to you to have you talk about this before. So I'm super excited to have you here and to learn from you. So I'm going to have you further introduce yourself. How's that? And
Okay.
then tell us all the words of wisdom that you have.
Okay.
So thank you for being here.
Of course. Happy to be here. I'm Helen Bear. I'm the digital projects librarian here at the library, and I've been here, I think, 6.5 years now. In a former life, I was a rare book and manuscript curator and an archivist, and that was very, very fun. But then I found digital, and it's even more fun than before, because I get to put things out for the whole world, not just the people who can, show up in person. So I've been working in Mountain Scholar since I got to CSU, and we are an open access repository. Do you guys know what that means exactly, or should I talk about that for a moment?
We've talked about open access, but we haven't talked about it in relation to repository. So that's why I was like, oh yeah, we should have you come and
Okay.
talk.
Yes, I will do that. I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen, by the way. I don't use Zoom very much, and I always had to figure this out. Oh, there it is. Let me see if this is going to work. Uh, okay. Are we sharing?
Yep, and we can see your screen.
Thank you. So, Mountain Scholar's been around since about, oh gosh, in its current form, 2016. And the history of repositories at universities goes back further. Around about 1999, 2000, 2002, libraries decided that they wanted to support open access and figure out ways to share things without making you log in through a paywall or pay a publisher or even go through the interlibrary loan department. So some fine folks dreamt up digital repositories, and most large libraries now in the US have one, and we've had one for a while, like I said, called Mountain Scholar. And the idea here is that this is open access and there are not very many restrictions in this entire system. For instance, this is built on the DSpace platform, and there's literally no way for me to hide a publication. I can withdraw it, and there has to be a really good reason for that. But I mean, it's so about making things available freely to all that there's literally no way to just turn off a record and say, oh, I don't think I want that in there anymore. So another thing to know about open access in libraries is that libraries are having to pay a lot of money for journal subscriptions, and it's in the millions of dollars for the larger universities per year. And that doesn't even guarantee you access to older journal articles. And so there has been this hope in the library world that we would have a lot more open access articles available to each other without having to go through the publishers and the paywalls, or like CSU does now, doing interlibrary loan and paying a per article fee. So that was the great hope. It is now 2025. And honestly, there's not a whole lot of stuff in these repositories. A lot of people do not submit because it's not required by a funder, for instance. So here we are today. We are happy to accept materials, and it's very easy to submit your work. But know that if you're going to the repository expecting to see everything that your department has published in the last few years, you're not going to find it. One, because a lot of things are restricted for copyright, and Kalita would have talked to you quite a bit about that. So when you publish an article, you sign a contract that says what you can and cannot do with your own work. And unfortunately, a lot of publishers would like you to sign a contract saying that once you publish something in their journal, you are no longer allowed to make copies of it and distribute those copies, for instance, in a repository. So that is where things are at. So there's a lot of things that you just are not allowed legally to put online, and we understand that. And every now and then we'll get something in the repository, for instance, that was not supposed to be put there. And sometimes we'll find it, more often the author will realize what they've done and contact us, and then we just remove the item. But again, it's pretty hard to get things out of the repository once they're in. We do have a takedown policy. Before I look at Mountain Scholar, I will show you very quickly how to find stuff about this system. So this is the page on the library website. In fact, it's easier if I show you how to find it. You just click Find and then Mountain Scholar. The most important thing here is the How to Submit page if you're interested in placing an article here. It asks you what types of data you're submitting. There's a totally separate place to put research data, which is the point of that section. There's a bunch of FAQ type stuff to help you figure out, like, well, do I have the right stuff here that I need to submit? And then there's a very simple how to where you log in and then it tells you exactly how to do this. So I want to very briefly show you Mountain Scholar so that you have some sense, if you have not been here before, of what's in here. We have 3 top-level communities, and that's just the lingo of the platform DSpace. So we are a community, CSU. We also have the Open Textbook Library Archive, which is almost all locked down to staff from the Open Textbook Library. We also have the University Press of Colorado. So if you look at CSU, we have the biggest chunk of our content is theses and dissertations, and a bunch of you are working on that right now, or about to finish, or going to be starting soon. So that is probably the single most popular item in both of our repositories. There's more than one. There's one for archives too. So here you are. If you want to see, for instance, theses and dissertations published by your peers, you can do it by department, which is very handy. And you can also go back, if you scroll all the way down, to see how things are chunked out into chronological categories. Yes, we do have something from 1890. I forget what it's called. We had a devil of a time trying to figure out what department to call that. So we kind of just punted on that and didn't do it. If you're not looking for theses and dissertations, you're probably looking for something from a department. And these are organized alphabetically. There are many, many departments. There are 10 pages worth of departments. So if you were in the College of Natural Sciences, you can see that there are 2 collections here. One is for honors theses, and we now are including these in the repository. And the other is for what we call publications. That's a generic term because it's stuff that's all over the board. So stuff, all we know is that it has to do with the College of Natural Sciences, right? We have a faculty information form. We have some notes and memos, it looks like. These look like things that we probably got directly from the department. So you may not always find journal articles in here. You'll find things related to the history of the department. So all of this stuff in here is keyword searchable, which is a good thing because there's a lot of records in here now. And basically, if you were going to want to have an article published in here, you would basically just use the submit option. And I will log in really quickly to show you what this looks like. And because I'm logging in as an admin, it's going to show me things that you do not get to see quite the same. But basically, you go up here after you've logged in with your EID, and you click New and then Item. And then when you look, probably the only thing you're going to see is something called Self-Submissions. It's funny, it doesn't want to show it to me now. It doesn't like that hyphen. But you will get a form that will come up. It's a very, very short form. It wants your name. It wants the title of your work. It needs a year. If you have an abstract, we would love to have it, but it's not necessary. Keywords also great, but not necessary. If you want to help us out a little bit and put the name of your department in here so we don't have to like search for it, that's what this is for. And then the other thing that you would have to do is sign this deposit license here. Basically, I don't know if Kalita actually looked at this license with you, but it says that you are just giving us permission to put one copy of your work in the repository, and we're not taking any rights away from you. You're just allowing us to do this. So it is short and sweet. You do have to check on the confirmation for that. And then that is how you deposit your work. So again, like the whole idea here is that things are available quickly. This beats the heck out of waiting for your publisher to get your article out in print, right? Because this could happen a lot more quickly. However, as Kalita probably talked about, your publisher does not want like the version of record to be in a repository because that's how they make their money. So you would have to submit a preprint or an approved author's version. But whatever you do, you can't submit like the final copy unless it's an open access journal, in which case you're free to do whatever you want with it. So that's like a really quick overview of some of the basic things. What questions do you guys have?
Helen, thank you. I am brimming with questions, but I don't want to hog the time either. But just really quick, do you get a DOI, a digital object identifier for your?
Yes, if you ask for one, we can make one for you. It's not automatic, but we can do that. And that's very handy sometimes.
Is there any reason to like I know there's other preprint repositories like Archive and stuff. Is there any advantage to using one over the other?
Yeah, so basically the rule is that you want to choose one repository and not two. And sometimes, depending on your discipline, it makes more sense to use a different repository. And that is totally fine. If you're in the sciences and you're trying to figure out what to do with anything that has to do with research data, you might want to talk to our research data specialist, Mara Sedlins, because she's really good at sussing out like, well, this belongs in this, biological sciences repository. I'm not as good at that because I don't generally have to spend time looking at those. But there is someone to ask in case you're like, I don't know about this.
Helen, I have a question about copyright, and it might actually be a conversation more like between if you don't have the answer, then between you and Kalita. But I'm curious about um, when you go to negotiate your contract, and you don't automatically have to sign. You can negotiate with your publishers. Can you have it built in so that you can use the repository here if you don't, in order to basically bypass open access there? I know that they're going to want you to pay. So if it's a Nature article, they're going to ask for their what, $11,000 or
Yes,
whatever it
they
costs
are.
to publish open access, and they are unlikely to give you a contract where they're like, oh yeah, feel free to put this in your
Yeah,
repository.
yeah.
But are there instances that you know of where people are able to do that, or when people do put in their preprints or author preprints, how is that? Um, or do you know on the kind of contracting or negotiation side?
I don't actually see the contracts, but anything you can get the publisher to agree to is fine. So, I
Okay.
mean, I used to literally like get contracts via fax machine and like write on the printout and say, this is not acceptable, or, email them and just cross it out or change it. So anything is possible theoretically. Of course, Nature is not going to let you do that, and many, many other journals are not going to let you do that. But if they have a soft heart, then you might get lucky.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because I'm thinking more and more like the floor for open access on some of these journals is, two, $3,000.
Yeah.
It, it's pricey. So I've been trying to figure out like ways if we don't have a agreement, although really nice to have Wiley back.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so any Any other questions for Helen while we have her here? No. Well, you can see Helen's email right there.
Yes,
So feel free to reach
put
out.
it in the chat too. Yep, and I'm here for all kinds of repository questions. I also do a lot with theses and dissertations, so if you get stuck, please reach out.